massive amount of money my friend lost. He's a smart guy, but just to give you an idea of how good that offense was looking, because this guy put, honestly, his kids' future education in on these bets. And so it just gives you an idea of just how good that offense was early on.
Yeah, I've heard that guy double down on the Niners needing to win this Saturday night. So if they go down, I'll see you guys in hell, basically.
I like the reveal at the end there. I'll see you guys. We never said who it was, Jay, just to be fair. Speaking of those Niners, Christian McCaffrey.
But to be fair, I'll definitely be in hell, so I will see you there, Jay. Yes, of course.
You guys have fun.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. It is a Love-Hate Friday. Connor Rogers, Jay Croucher, Matthew Berry out there in the bunker. Pretty unique Love-Hate Friday, Jay. We don't get to do this a lot.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. It's big weekend. There's a lot at stake.
A lot of weird matchups.
Yeah, a lot of strange matchups.
Because of the uncertainty.
Yeah, actually, I love Week 18.
Me too.
I love the randomness. I love Chiefs, Raiders, Chris Oladokin against the team trying to lose to get the number one pick. Also just like random, like Cleveland, Cincinnati. It's just like, it kind of has a preseason-y feel a little bit, but they're also massive games with stakes. I'm looking forward to Niners. Yeah,
player stakes, because there's Week 18 incentives that will sprinkle in as well and can really guide how you're going to maybe bet, how you're going to set daily lineups, whatever it may be. Matthew, how are you, man? We almost forgot about you all the way out there.
No, it's easy to forget. No worries about that. I'm just minding myself. By the way, keep going. I'm enjoying this. I could just, take the show off. I will say yes. There's a bitch, which I know Jay, you always love. There's a bunch of randomness and variance to Week 18, where you have teams at wild ends of the spectrum. Some teams actively trying to lose. Some teams actively just trying not to get hurt and trying to just get through the day, whereas some teams desperately trying to keep their seasons alive or have significant playoff seeding. So a lot going on in Week 18. Week 18 is, some of the most beloved but obscure names in fantasy football lore have come from Week 18. Who can forget Jets legend Joe McKnight?
Yeah. Before we jump into the rest of the show, just on that point, Matthew, about the variance, I think one example of this, Rams-Cardinals. The Rams may have something serious to play for. If the Seahawks win, then the Rams can get the 5 seed, which you want, because then you go up against the NFC South champion, instead of going to Philadelphia to play the team that just won the Super Bowl. And so the Rams are 7.5-point favorites. They are simply more likely to win that game by 21-plus points than your typical 7.5-point favorite, because there's a material chance that they play all their guys, and then they will very likely blow out the Cardinals. So there's a lot of stuff of that ilk.
Don't worry, regulars, we didn't forget about you. We have the Week 18 regular power rankings coming up. Jay and I will close out the show, giving Matthew our pickup lines. But before we go anywhere, let's jump right into the Rotoworld Player news, because this is a big one. Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson on Playing Sunday. I'm going to be out there. Hear from the man himself when it all on the line.
You say now if you're going to be starting Sunday in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, man. I'm going to be out there.
You get a full weekend of practice.
Feel great. Feel great to be out there with my guys as always. Feel great.
Simple as that. Lamar Jackson will play.
I guess he's playing.
I like his honesty. Before we get into the actual Lamar Week 18 combo here, Lamar Jackson managers, you guys drink for free today because you didn't have him when you needed him. He's back for Week 18. It's unlikely you're playing your championship in Week 18. But for the Ravens, Jay, this is the best case scenario for them. And this line opened at 3.5, so it felt like it was always kind of leaning this way. But good to hear it from the man himself.
Yeah, and also, as we got at the end of that clip, the fact that he's gotten a full week of practice in, like full practice on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
He wasn't even doing that when he was allegedly healthier, a few weeks ago. So that bodes very well. Unfortunately, I've had a bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl, 25-1, which which would be absolutely hilarious if this is the year that Lamar Jackson wins the Super Bowl, when he's like had the worst year of his career, basically. The team has not been particularly good to this point, but just with the way that it is shaken out, 3.5-point favorites in Pittsburgh, likely play the Texans in Baltimore if they win that game in Wild Card weekend. Lamar has had great success against the Texans. The Ravens will be favored in that game, and the AFC is just wide open. None of these teams are scary. If they do have to play the Bills, who I think are the best team in the AFC, that game would be in Baltimore. So yeah, I think that it just kind of speaks to the wide openness of the AFC.
So 2 questions. Number one is, Jay, do you actually have a bet this year on the Ravens Super Bowl? Or is it just many years you have previously and they've never come through?
No, I tend to be on the Ravens, but this year I am on them. I placed the wager on them at 25-1 to win the Super Bowl. Not to make the Super Bowl, to win the championship, which would be quite bizarre, but I think the path is there. Yeah,
the other thing that's hilarious about all of this, Jay, is that answer from Lamar. I don't know if you were listening to that, where they're talking about, hey, are you going to play this week, or anything like that, and Lamar was like, oh yeah, of course, as if there was like no question. Like, the reporter was silly for asking whether or not he was going to play in week 18. He was just like, oh yeah, my guys, of course, I'm going to get there. And it's just like, of course there's a question you're going to play. Like, you never play. Like, I feel like there are more big games that Lamar misses than he shows up in. I'm saying health-wise, forget performance of on the field. I feel like he's the most, I don't want to say most injured quarterback, but I feel like the guy that misses the most, this is not the way to phrase it, but the most insignificant time, if that makes any sense. Like, we've seen guys like whether Joe Burrow or whatever, like have significant injuries where they're like they're out for the next 8 weeks. But Lamar, it feels like always it's like 3 games here, 2 games there, like a game here where you really need him. Like, feels like he's always like sick. You know what I mean? I don't know. And so, like, the fact that he's surprised that people are asking, are you going to play in week 18 is semi-hilarious to me.
He does get sick a lot. The reason why I've bet on the Ravens, though, Connor, and it kind of ties into this with Lamar, is that I think that the Ravens, strangely, are the highest variance team in the playoffs, because Lamar Jackson, who quietly, the 2 weeks leading into the Pats game and then the start of the Pats game, that was the best that he had looked athletically in a long time. And there is just the chance that MVP Lamar may walk through that door as he's had all this time off again. And I think that Baltimore's team rating in the market has the one that has the most scope to accelerate throughout the playoffs.
I think that's the right approach, because the way you're looking at it is on any given Sunday, he can be the best player on the field. And this is a weird playoff pool that doesn't have Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't have Joe Burrow. It's missing a lot of those guys where you go, it's a unique year where he could. Now, he hasn't done that in the playoffs enough. That's always been the criticism of Lamar Jackson, which is why it's, like you said, it would be ironic if this was the year. But you look at the schedule he could potentially play if they get in. Yes, there's a world where every single playoff game you could make the argument Lamar's the best player out there.
Yeah, and in the AFC, there's only 3 teams that he can go on the road against. Denver, New England, and probably Jacksonville, assuming they win the AFC South. I don't think that he's going to be scared of any of those matchups.
Jonathan Medici said, I had Lamar in all my leagues, so if I'm drinking free, I'm getting trashed. Just wake me up on Monday. Medici, we need you here. What do you got to that, Matthew?
Yeah, no, completely agree there. I mean, it is fascinating because what did the Ravens start? They started 1-6, something like that. Yeah, 1-5.
Yeah.
So the Ravens are on the verge of completing what many are calling a Barry-like rise from the ashes. It's following my playbook. I have led the way, showed them how to do it. I started 0-7, of course, then ultimately defeating Connor in the 7th place game to cap my triumphant victory and a beautiful season. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it would just be one of those things. It's like every single year, they do the, hey, if you start 2-4, if you start 2-5, your chances, it would just blow all those models out of the water if the Ravens do in fact make the Super Bowl this year. As you see their schedule right there on your screen, they won the Browns game in week 2, but other than that, they did not get a win until week 8. Obviously, there was the bye in week 7, but started 1-5. They were 1-5 before they got their second win in week number 8 against the Bears, interestingly enough.
What's funny is, Jay, when they got to that bye at 1-5, I believe they were still the obvious favorite to win the division by all the books.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, like,
Long road to get here, though.
They had this like horrific 1-5 start. It's not like they've won 10 straight or anything. They've gone 7-3, which is solid, but they haven't really blown the doors off the league in that time or anything. But I remember thinking back to week 1, halfway through the third quarter against the Bills on Sunday Night Football, being like, all right, well, season's over. Ravens just going to win the Super Bowl. This team looks like the greatest offense of all time, just picked up right where they left off. And then they blow that game, and then they go on a losing streak. But I think ultimately this team still has a ton of upside, and it's just because Lamar Jackson, I don't think it would really shock anyone if Lamar Jackson was just the best player in the playoffs. Like if he found that level again. So that's what I'm betting on.
All right, let's get into
last thing
love-hate.
to put a bow on this entire conversation, then we can get to love-hate, Connor, is that for all this discussion, and I agree with everything we just said, watch the Steelers win on Sunday night. Yeah. You know that's what's going to happen, right? And then, you know, when we stuck to, you know, Kenneth Gainwell, playoff hero.
Love-hate quarterbacks headlined by Jaxson Dart against the Cowboys here. Matthew, QB2 for you against the Cowboys this week, in which the Giants are hovering around being a 3.5-point underdog. Looks like good things ahead for Dart.
Yeah, you have to understand that obviously you have to figure out, like, okay, who's playing, who's got a good matchup, who's going to play the whole game, right? So you're sifting through a lot of different scenarios this week than you would normally in putting together the love-hate list. But I believe Jaxson Dart not only is going to play, not only is going to play the whole game, but he's got an unbelievable matchup against the Cowboys, as 12 of the 16 quarterbacks to face the Cowboys this year have scored 18 or more fantasy points. They're giving up the most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks in the NFL. And in fact, the most important part here is they've actually given up 8 rushing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks, right? That's 2 more than any other team in the NFL. Obviously, we know Jaxson Dart uses his legs, especially when they get in close. Doesn't seem like they love to give Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy as much work near the goal line as we would like. So, yeah, Jaxson Dart, my number 2 quarterback in Week 18.
I think the Giants could play their way out of the 2 spot in this one.
I have a lot of Cowboys over 7.5 wins, and so they need to win this game to be able to catch that ticket. And yeah, I thought that this would be a bit more of a layup. I thought the Giants would be resting more players. I didn't have to think I'd be only a 3.5-point favorite in this game, needing Dak to get it done. And it is concerning that the Cowboys secondary, Cowboys defense in general, after they had a bit of a bounce when Quinn Williams came back and they were stopping the run, JCM kind of did whatever he wanted against them last time out, and the secondary kind of is just untenable at this point.
That's the thing where you look at it, and why I agree with Matthew. I'd be really high on Dart this week is, you know, he'll be able to throw the ball. He's obviously back to using his legs a little bit, although they want him to be careful there. Wan'Dale Robinson about to hit free agency. So when it comes down to it, it feels like this could be a kind of a big shootout, and the Giants will be, I think, right in this thing the whole time. Trevor Lawrence also on the list at QB3 here, Matthew. He's got the Titans. And when you look at it for this one, there's still something to play for, where you can't say that with every quarterback this week.
No, you certainly can. Obviously, you know, they want to get as high a seed as possible, Jacksonville. And so, you know, and Trevor Lawrence, by the way, it's not like he's a veteran in the sense that he's obviously a veteran and he's played many years in the NFL, but he hasn't played that many games in Liam Cohen's system. So you want to get him as many reps as possible. And so Trevor Lawrence, who's now been a top 10 fantasy quarterback for 6 straight weeks. You think about that first matchup against the Titans back in week 13, 21.7 fantasy points. He was the 5th best quarterback in fantasy that week. Titans have given up multiple touchdown passes in 8 of their past 10 games. It's a great matchup against a red-hot quarterback. So yeah, the only concern here is, do the Jacksonville Jaguars get up big here, and all of a sudden then he has to take the ease off in the second half? But I'm not really concerned about that because Tennessee has shown some signs of life. I mean, that's the more interesting question to me, Connor. Feels like Cam Ward, I don't know that Cam Ward has been what anyone expected when he was the number 1 overall draft pick, but feels like he's been better. The young receiving core is coming around a little bit more, and that I think Tennessee has, Tony Pollard's been strong the last couple of weeks as well. So it feels like the Titans will be productive enough here to keep it interesting so that Trevor Lawrence can do the Trevor Lawrence things that we so love.
Yeah, 8 touchdowns in his last 4 games for Cam Ward, so you're hoping the script doesn't get too out of hand here, Jay.
Yeah, and I think the good thing, too, is that in games that have gotten out of hand, Trevor Lawrence has still been, rolling in the second half. That Jets game was out of hand. He still put up 6 total touchdowns. And I think the thing with Lawrence, too, is that, when other quarterbacks go on heaters, like you think back to the first 9 weeks of the season for Daniel Jones, a lot of the throws Daniel Jones were making were open and a product of the scheme and his weapons. Trevor Lawrence is making, like, MVP-level throws at the moment. He's absolutely ripping the ball into tight windows. He seems to have total control of this Cohen scheme. The throw that he made to get them into effectively field goal range at the end against the Colts was next level. So, yeah, I think that we've got enough sample now, and Lawrence has done it against at least a couple of decent defenses, particularly the Broncos, where he lit them up, to believe that this improvement is real. The talent has always been there, and it seems like really for the first time in his career, he's been paired with like an outlier good offensive mind.
Caleb Williams, our final one here on the love list. He comes in as QB6 against the Lions. Bit of a hot stretch here for Caleb Williams through the air, and he always going to give you a little bit with the rushing as well. And Matthew, this game specifically, the second highest implied total for the Week 18 slate at 50.5 points.
Yeah, we expect a lot of scoring on both sides of the ball. It's a great matchup for Caleb specifically. Since Week 12, the Lions have a bottom 3 pass defense, right? They're allowing over 19 fantasy points a game to quarterbacks. And then you think about Caleb Williams, how red hot he has been. Bears, I believe, Jay, don't the Bears still have an outside chance at the number 1 seed? Isn't there a scenario where that could happen? They need a lot to happen.
That's done now, but they can lock in the 2 seed. The winner of Seahawks-Niners will be the 1. But yeah, I mean, they want the 2 seed because then you get to definitely avoid the Rams.
Right.
Yeah.
And the good thing for Caleb is that this Detroit secondary is just completely decimated. Like in the safety position, there's no Brian Branch, there's no Kirby Joseph. Thomas Harper's just, I think, got his 2nd concussion in a month, so likely going to be down to their 4th and 5th string safeties. They're banged up at corner. They're banged up at linebacker now. Like this is all set up kind of to be just a Ben Johnson kind of poetic kind of ending to the season where he destroys the Lions.
Well, that's the funny thing is you have 2 coaches that they're going to play for everything. Yep. Even if the Lions are out of it, I think Dan Campbell against a guy that worked on his staff for that long, there's a lot of pride with them finishing the season strong. And then on the Bears side of it, you mentioned they're playing for the 2 seed. Ben Johnson is a very prideful coach and kind of wants to stick it to everyone.
Also, the Lions beat them by like 30 in the first matchup. That was back in like week 2, but I'm sure that has stuck with Ben Johnson and that he will, show no mercy.
Yeah, so I think I like that. I think Caleb Williams in line for hopefully another big day. He's been on a really, really good stretch here. Let's go to the running backs. Chase Brown against the Browns just needs 53 rushing yards for a 1,000-yard season, Matthew, which is kind of shocking with the start he had for the first 6 weeks or so, but he's been fantastic in the second half of this year.
Oh, you don't have to tell me. He was, he was part of my 0-7 run. He was so brutal those first 7 weeks. Him and Derrick Henry just killing me, and then only to be so great down the stretch. But yes, since Joe Burrow returned, and we've talked about this a lot, but since Joe Burrow returned, Chase Brown's been everything you drafted him to be and so much more. He's the 3rd best running back in fantasy. He's averaging almost 20 touches a game. He's got a 14% target share in that stretch. He's got 7 touchdowns, averaging 23 fantasy points per game. And now you get the Browns, who have suddenly fallen off the cliff. And whether it is because of injuries or because they are selling out, just trying to get Myles Garrett that record, either way, over the last month, the Browns give up 137 rushing yards per game to opposing running backs, over 5 yards per carry as well. You can run on Cleveland. Like we saw Tony Pollard run all over them. So certainly Chase Brown should have a big game against a Browns team that gives up over 28 fantasy points per game to opposing backfields over the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, also Defensive Rookie of the Year elect Carson Schwessinger hasn't been practicing this week. He was carrying his body around at the end of the Steelers game, and he's been one of the best run-stopping linebackers in the league.
Without a doubt. R.J. Harvey also on the list here as RB16 here, Matthew. The Broncos, they're playing for it all. The Chargers, they're playing for basically nothing in this one.
I mean, Jim Harbaugh said, they're resting – the guys that we know about, that we care about in fantasy football, we know like Justin Herbert's not going to play. Some of their stars are not going to play. So it stands to reason that a lot of the guys on the defense as well are not going to play. So it's going to be a lot of backups out there against the Chargers. Meanwhile, Denver, to your point, has something to play for, so they should go all out. And that includes giving the ball to R.J. Harvey quite a bit. In the 6 starts since J.K. Dobbins was banged up, since he was injured, RJ Harvey's averaging 17 touches a game. He's got a double-digit target share as well, and he's been the 10th best running back in fantasy football since J.K. Dobbins was hurt. So, getting a lot of work and a good matchup here as well. The most important part here, by the way, about RJ Harvey has been that since week 11, he keeps getting work when they get in close. He's 7th in red zone touches per game since week 11, right? He's had at least 4 red zone touches in 4 of the past 6. Like, they get in close. They like to give it to RJ Harvey. He has seemed to find a nose for the end zone as well. We see him keep scoring. So, yeah, I'm at running back 16 in a game in which the Broncos should be trying and the Chargers should not.
All right, that brings us to the hate list where Omarion Hampton is on here, Matthew. Not only were we talking about the rest with the Chargers, Hampton hasn't even practiced Wednesday and Thursday. So not only is it up for a question if he's going to play, but what are you getting for him if he even is active?
Yeah, I don't think you want any part of Hampton, although I don't think you're going to have to make that choice. Like I said, I think he is going to be inactive with a lot of the starters that they rest. I think he's going to be one of them. No team allows fewer fantasy points to opposing running backs than the Denver Broncos. They also give the second fewest rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. And, if you are Jim Harbaugh and you're resting starters, wouldn't some of the starters that you want to rest be whatever healthy offensive lineman you have left? I mean, it's, you're down to the sticks there, and so you kind of just want to keep whoever you've got out there healthy.
Yeah. Jay, this is kind of a weird one. You look at a Denver team that, their average margin of victory is still under 5 points.
Yeah.
The spread is 12.5. In theory, this should be a blowout.
Yeah. I think the thing with Denver is that with their defense in particular, I think it is more malleable to the level of opponent than your typical very good defense, where whenever the Broncos play an elite quarterback the past 2 years, they basically get torched. Think about what Josh Allen did to them in the playoffs. Herbert last year torched them towards the end of the season. Joe Burrow, I don't think he punted towards the end of the season. Trevor Lawrence, who has been playing at an elite level lately, put up 34 and the Broncos did whatever he wanted. But the flip side of that is that when they play bad teams and bad quarterbacks, they just suffocate them because the pass rush is too good. Satan is too good on the back end. Think about what they did to Jake Browning, who scored 3 points. Think about what happens to Justin Fields in Europe against them. And so this game has, to me, the vibe of Week 18 last year when they played the Chiefs backups and Carson Wentz, and they beat them 38-0.
Right.
So this feels like this is going to be like a 4-score type of win where Trey Lance behind maybe the worst offensive line in football going up against that Denver pass rush.
I'm with you. I think there's reason to question how great they could be against the great teams, and the best part is we'll find that out in the playoffs, but they can tee off on limited quarterbacks as well as any defense in the league. Let's go to the pass catchers on the love list. George Pickens against the Giants. Matthew, you brought up Jaxson Dart against Dallas. Well, if this game goes into a shootout, that means George Pickens should be able to get his as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, this Giants secondary has struggled quite a bit. They give up the 5th highest completion rate on passes of 15 or more air yards, right? In essence, that's a stat which tells you what you know if you watch the games. You can throw deep on the New York Football Giants. In fact, they've given up at least 14 fantasy points to a wide receiver in every game this year except for one. And so George Pickens, who is their deep threat, who they will take deep shots to, he's my wide receiver 6 this week, as you see it right there. Him and my guy 8s. I have 8s at 4. I call them 8s, CeeDee Lamb. But we expect the Cowboys to sort of have their way offensively with New York.
Let's go to Michael Wilson here, Jay. It's pretty simple. No Marvin Harrison. He's still dealing with that heel injury. Michael Wilson needs 93 yards for a 1,000-yard season. We know what this guy can do, especially when Marv is down.
Yeah, I think also, the team will know about that, and they'll want to get him to 1K. With no Marvin Harrison Jr. going up against a Rams secondary that has been pretty solid this year, but I don't think is absolutely infallible, particularly given the scope where if the Niners win tomorrow, then the Rams have much less to play for. They'll be locked into the 6th seed, and I don't think that Stafford will be playing at that point, and the Rams may miss starters. So, yeah, there's scope for this to be a bit of a carnival game if it gets there. And then the flip side is that if the Rams are playing to win, well, they're probably going to get up big. Then Michael Wilson will have garbage time, and he's got one of the great garbage time architects of all of our time in Jacoby Brissett to get him the ball.
Okay, Gemma says Michael Wilson legacy game loading, especially in garbage time, Matthew, where he's been king and Trey McBride has been king all season long.
Yeah, I mean, look, Michael Wilson in the first matchup against the Rams, this was week 14 again, MHJ was out. Michael Wilson went 11 for 142 and 2. And certainly the Rams were trying in that game. So, I mean, like, he's got in games in which Harrison has not played this year, he's averaging a 33% target share. It becomes the greatest wide receiver of all time. And it's going to be crazy at the end of the year to look at where Michael Wilson's stats, especially because it's all come basically within the last, month, where Michael Wilson overall statistically compares with a lot of big name wide receivers that he has statistically outproduced, because that's how insane the last 4 to 6 weeks have been for Michael Wilson. It's sort of crazy to think about back in draft day. You're like, oh, should I draft, Ladd McConkey or Michael Wilson? And you're like, wait, what? And you're like, you'd have been better off with Michael Wilson, Garrett Wilson. Well, I mean, not even getting the guys that get injured like the Malik Neighbors of the world, right?
Yeah, it's crazy how much can change over the course of a season. This one from Troy, 12019. Jameson Williams, assuming Amon-Ra is out, Stephon Diggs, or Luther Burden for a Week 18 championship. Thanks, Mr. Berry.
Yeah, I think Diggs for me, right? I mean, just because they also, to your point, they want to get Drake May the MVP. They are going to be feeding Stephon Diggs. They're so beat up at the wide receiver position. We saw what Diggs did last week as well. There's just a lot of assumptions going on there. Look, I mean, I think if Amon-Ra is out, J-Mo should have a big game here, and we've already talked about Luther Burden a lot on this show, but I currently have Diggs ranked the highest of those 3 players.
Yeah, the other thing with Jameson Williams too is that Amon-Ra St. Brown did actually practice yesterday, which seems surprising given how he came out of the game against the Vikings. But I think it speaks to the fact that Dan Campbell doesn't really want to win this game, and they might push him through it. And if that's the case, then if he does play, then Diggs is certainly the most appealing option of those 3.
Let's get to a tight end in Coleston Loveland. We keep going back to this Detroit defense and the matchups there. And Matthew, no Rome Odunze. He's been dealing with this foot injury for a long time. Colston Loveland, a top 5 tight end for you this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, look, last week in a gotta-have-it game against the Niners, and obviously they didn't get it, but it's not due to the fault of Colston Loveland. 25% target share, 85% route participation. He was out there quite a bit. Cole Kmet, who also, you mentioned no Rome Odunze, also no Olamide Zaccheaus, which is a sneaky absence there because they like him a lot in the middle of the field. And so Colston Loveland, who continues to emerge in this offense, be a bigger part and earn the trust of Caleb Williams. It's a great matchup with Detroit, by the way. Lions allow 15.5 fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. That is 4th most in the NFL over the last 4 weeks. So it's a really nice matchup here for Colston Loveland.
Going to the hate list for pass catchers, Michael Pittman Jr. against the Texans. This one's pretty simple, Matthew. It was just hard to trust rookie quarterback Riley Leonard in this spot to get him the ball effectively.
Yeah, I mean, look, whether it's Phillip Rivers or now it's Riley Leonard, like the fact of the matter is that since week 10, Michael Pittman has one game with more than 32 receiving yards. And then you mentioned this matchup against Houston, right? No team allows a lower catch rate to opposing wide receivers than the Houston Texans, right? No team gives up, pick a stat. There's a lot of very good ones around the Texans defense. By the way, the Colts have the 3rd lowest implied team total in week 18. Pittman has generally, throughout his career, never been a big touchdown scorer. He's always been more of a floor volume guy. And I just don't know that he gets that volume with Riley Leonard under center against the Texans defense, who not only are playing for postseason seeding, but they are also playing for individual awards. They've got some defensive players that have legit shots at some postseason hardware.
Yeah, kind of the Riley Leonard that I saw in Jacksonville when he took over for Jones after Jones did the Achilles. Now, I understand it's a tough spot for him to come in without a week of preparation, but the guy I saw could move around.
Yes.
Has an arm, but 1, was very inaccurate, and then 2, did not seem on the same page with his receivers at all.
Right, and whether that's a reps thing or, this is somebody that does need more time as a passer. And this goes all the way back to after he transferred to Notre Dame from Duke, where if you watch Notre Dame's offense, and they had a great year that year, they almost used Riley Leonard as this battering ram quarterback very often. So if you're asking him to step into an NFL game as a rookie, he's going to have to lean on his legs as much as he can, which could be good for him, but not the best for the entire pass-catching group, Matthew.
Look, it's an NFL game. Anything can happen, and they'll coach him up. But just think about this. Shane Steichen and the Colts coaching staff and the Colts front office that had seen Riley Leonard in practice all year long said, you know who's giving us a better shot to win? 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, who hasn't played football in 5 years. Like, I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know. With their season on the line, they decided to go get a guy out of retirement from 5 years ago than rather give Riley Leonard a shot. And so, I mean, again, Riley Leonard ultimately turned into a nice player in this league, but in a start against Houston, you just don't have a ton of confidence here.
To be fair, I think weirdly, even though they went 0-3, I think Steichen was somewhat vindicated by that decision because I thought Phil Rivers played remarkably well given the circumstances, and they were very close to beating Seattle and Jacksonville, which would, I think, have made this a play-in for the playoffs.
I think he surpassed anyone's expectations.
For sure.
Yeah, where they showed, yes. And it was also, it felt like they needed an adult that could manage the game.
Yep.
It's not like you looked at the box score and it's like 230 yards for Phil Rivers, but the way he can get everybody lined up, put them in effective drives. They were able to really lean on their best player in Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, I'm with you all the way on that one. Say Alec Pierce is back on this team next year.
Yep.
Which pass catcher is drafted the earliest? Because we could factor Tyler Warren into that group.
Yeah, I think it's, it's probably Tyler Warren because of value relative to position.
That
Tyler
makes
Warren
sense.
may well be a top 5 tight end, particularly if I would say the median expectation is that Daniel Jones comes back and is the starter. In week 1, we saw the rapport that he had with Tyler Warren. Of the receivers, I would, if they're all back, they got to re-sign Alec Pierce, but I would put Pierce 1.
Me too.
And Downs and Pittman are much of a muchness. But I think that Warren is the guy who goes first.
Yeah, what do you think,
hey,
Matthew?
Connor?
Yeah.
I agree with that, by the way. I agree with Tyler Warren, although Alec Pierce will be a sexy sleeper for many, including me, next year. One thing I will say, though, I think it's interesting. It's sort of crazy to think about. I totally agree with you on Phillip Rivers. That, and maybe it's just because everyone was expecting a disaster, and it wasn't. It felt like the defense, honestly, lost those games more than Phillip Rivers. He could have done a little bit more, sure, but, he was beyond competent. Phillip Rivers, as he sits here today at 44 years old, there are not 64 quarterbacks in the NFL that are better than Phillip Rivers right now at 44. So, I'm talking about in terms of the team starters and the team's backups, and that includes the guys that are going to be coming in from college after this year. Is Phillip Rivers in the NFL next year? Depending on, do the Colts say, hey, Phillip, do you want to come stick around and be a backup and earn a backup salary for a year? And I don't know. He chose the situation because he is personally very close with Steichen. He knows the offense. He was actually running the offense on the high school team he coaches. But I don't think it's the craziest idea if Phillip Rivers, now that he's gotten out there, he's gotten hit a few times, he's gotten the adrenaline back. He said after his last pro game that he doesn't regret coming out of retirement or, delaying the Hall of Fame vote by 5 more years or whatever. I guess I'm saying that I think there's a non-zero chance that Phillip Rivers is back in the NFL next year in some role.
He said he's done.
Yeah, he went on the Kay Adams show and said that he's definitively done. I mean, you never know. I would say if he's back in the league, it's probably more in a coaching type of role. But I agree, Matthew. He's clearly, it's not even just top 64. The guy who was out there the past 3 games was a top 40 quarterback in the league, I think. He'd be an upper end backup to be able to do what he was able to do in those 3 games.
Yeah, could somebody else now be motivated to do this, though, if there was a unique situation with an organization they played for?
Tom Brady would be the best quarterback on the Raiders right now by margin.
Tom Brady would be
there's no doubt.
Best quarterback on a lot of teams right now.
Yeah, and I'm also by the way, didn't Phillip Rivers say he was definitively done 5 years ago? Never say never.
Yeah.
Never say never.
They absolutely change. All right, let's get into the Week 18 player incentives. This can make some player prop situations or even daily fantasy situations a lot of fun. Raiders rookie running back Ashton Jeanty hasn't been a great rookie season for the top 10 pick, but 112 rushing yards away still for a 1,000-yard season. Pete Carroll spoke on the rookie.
I think he's had a terrific season. We'd love to get him 120 or whatever he needs to get him 1,000. It'd be fun to get that done. But he's contributed in many ways. Look at him catching the ball down the field, in the last couple of weeks. Again, he makes plays. So he's a big threat. We love him, and he's still just getting warmed up, just getting started.
Path to 1,000 rushing yards. Chase Brown, as we said earlier, 53 away. Kenneth Walker, 70 away. Jalen Warren 108 yards away. TreVeyon Henderson, it feels like he wasn't even a thing until the second half of the year, only 142, which he could do with his big playability. But Ashton Jeanty here, Matthew, it would be nice, but man, 112 for this Raiders offense feels like a lot.
It does feel like a lot. I mean, the day to get a big chunk of that was last week against the Giants, and they couldn't get anything going against the Giants team that had given up to pretty much every other running back they've seen this year. And so, it'd be a nice, I'm sure Pete Carroll would love to get it for him, but, I'm sure Pete Carroll would love to, have some completed passes, have a couple of touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, like it just, I don't know. It's been tough. I wouldn't bank on it. And I wouldn't bank on it for Henderson TreVeyon Henderson as well. Like the Patriots are going to want to pad the stats of Drake May. I don't think they're worried about getting TreVeyon Henderson to 1,000 yards.
Yeah, also, these guys are like rookies, and it's 1,000 yards. There's no cash incentive here or anything. Ashton Jeanty's going to have lots of opportunities to get to 1,000 yards in his career, you would suspect.
Well, cash incentives, speaking of, Tony Pollard on the Titans, 66 more rushing yards, and he's got $250,000 here. Now, he is RB 29 for you, Matthew, and no surprise, his rushing prop on DraftKings is right at 67.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, they don't miss a trick. I think, for a while there in fantasy football, we were sort of in on the incentives, and then it's taken a little while for the books to catch up, but now they have. And even if, quote, even if the numbers, Connor, this is my own theory, and Jay, as somebody who has more insight into the bookmaking process, can tell me. My suspicion is that whatever the number for Tony Pollard might be 50, might be 48 in terms of what the actual over-under should be based on sort of the projections and the algorithm. But they make it 67 specifically because they know he's got a 60, if he needed 64 to reach $250,000, they'd make it 65. I feel like the books are very dialed into the incentives, and that's why they set the line where they do for certain players.
Yeah, you potentially steal a free yard there in terms of people just going to back the over anyway. There's not much of an edge backing these now. I do think there is one aspect, though, of backing these props live, particularly if the player gets off to a slow start and then the market is pricing it, though it's like a normal distribution of outcomes of you just kind of however far we are into the game versus the yards remaining, where it's no, the Bucs are going to go out of their way to get Mike Evans the ball every single play until he gets to 1K like last year at the end. But not much of an edge betting these necessarily.
The funny thing is you could almost argue the edge is the opposite.
Yeah.
Jacksonville has had the top run defense for much of this NFL season. Tony Pollard, week by week, I know he's had a really good 3-week stretch, but is not typically a guy where his rushing prop hovers around 70 yards. You would think it's more in the 50s. You could argue, Jay, that the edge is actually the under unless they're just so hell-bent on getting him there that they give him 25 carries. Yeah. That's why it's like this.
Yeah, which I don't think that they will. Right? I think it's the situation here with the fact that the Jags do have such an elite run defense, with the fact that also this is a real game. Jacksonville needs to win this game to win the division. It's not like a carnival week 18 game. So yeah, if I were betting either side of this, I'd certainly be taking the under.
Oddly enough, Tony Pollard is 46 rushing yards away from a career high. Isn't that bizarre?
I feel
like we talked about him 3 weeks this year.
He was like a first-round pick in fantasy that last year in Dallas, and they won a ton of games. It just didn't happen for him.
Very wild. All right, our next one, Justin Jefferson. It's been a slow crawl to get here, Matthew, but 53 receiving yards away from another 1,000-yard season for Justin Jefferson.
This is unbelievable. I mean, right? Considering how frustrating it's been, but it's been frustrating on the scale of Justin Jefferson, who is usually, crossed this number much earlier in the season. And so I do think he gets to the 53. If I had to, I don't know what the line is, but I would take the over on this. I do think they try very hard to get him this number. Just because, he's a star, and there's been some hints about him wanting to move on in the offseason and some rumblings. And so I think, in a lost season for Minnesota, they want to keep number 18 happy, their star wide receiver. I do think they try to get him this number.
I wonder if there'll be a little bit of a buy the dip with them next year. If it's just J.J. McCarthy, that situation doesn't exist. But if they went out and got, I know this has become too easy to use as a placeholder, but a Mac Jones for camp. I mean, Justin Jefferson, in his 4 full seasons, all 4 of them had at least 1,400 yards. The one season where he missed some time, in 9 full games, he had almost 1,100.
Yeah.
Like, this is a total anomaly this season.
Yeah, we kind of do forget, but because of how good he has been so early in his
Right,
career,
he's 26.
like beginning in his rookie season where he went head-to-head with Justin Herbert for Offensive Rookie of the Year, had one of the greatest rookie receiver seasons of all time. Like, this is a guy who's on track to be the most statistically prolific receiver in NFL history.
Right.
Like, this is the guy we're talking about. I don't think that his skills or his body have diminished. I know he's dealt with some hamstring stuff, but for the most part, he still looks like Justin Jefferson, and he's had flashes, particularly when Wentz was at quarterback. So yeah, if you told me that Mac Jones was the quarterback of the Vikings, then Justin Jefferson's a first-round pick.
This comment from Ved, Happy Hour regular. JJ's 1,000 yards victory will be the same like Barry's victory over Connor, inconsequential.
Wow.
It's
a good word.
That's a good usage of the English language.
Yeah, it is a nice usage. It's an inaccurate one, though. It's inaccurate because the idea that my victory over Connor was inconsequential is not true. It was very consequential, and I will tell you why. It was consequential to at least 2 people and at least 2 people in this entire world. Number one, it was consequential to me because I'd much rather be 7th than 8th. It has allowed me to have something to sort of hang my hat on. After a tough year, I have something to hang my hat on. I am, of all the teams that didn't make the playoffs, I was the best. After an 0-7 start, my unbelievable comeback, my Cinderella kid story. I look forward to the 30 for 30 about it later on. I'm working on it right now. And it's also consequential to Connor. Because you think about Connor Rogers, poor Connor Rogers, all Connor Rogers wants to do, it's been a tough year for Connor. He has to talk about the Jets week in, week out, day in, day out. Pulls double duty for us here at NBC. Not only does he do our show, but he works on Sims's show as well. And so, all Connor wants to do is sort of keep his head down and just try to plow through it. And yet,
That's right.
He's got to sit there and deal with the obnoxiousness that is me and hear about how his team, which started out so strong, so promising, was not able to, at the very last minute, crush me like a grape and make me the 8th place team. So it was important to Connor. Connor wanted to win that game, and yet, he picked up Malik Willis, which I feel like that's a no-no. I feel like when you're out of the playoffs, you shouldn't go to the waiver wire and make a move. I did not watch I didn't make one transaction once I was eliminated from the playoffs. Yes, I'm a man of integrity. But Connor Rogers is not. Connor Rogers is, I don't care if other playoff teams actually need a quarterback. I'm going to go, and I'm going to pick up Malik Willis. I'm going to start him against Barry. He had 30 points against me.
That was great.
But it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough.
Yeah, on the decision to pick up Malik Willis, I'm a lawyer, Matthew, and there is a legal carve-out where you can make that decision if you're going up against you. You're actually allowed to do that. And also encouraged, legally, spiritually, emotionally encouraged.
Actually, the real reason I did it, we played in the same consolation bracket. This is why this league makes no sense. 2 weeks ago, and I never made a lineup.
Yeah.
So Rome Odunze, who's not been playing football, was in my lineup.
Yeah.
I beat Matthew by a point.
Yeah.
But he said to me when we sat down, he goes, "You started Rome Odunze, I didn't even play." And I was like, there's a consolation bracket. So this time I actually decided to have a little pride for the league and fill out a lineup.
One pride, I like it.
Yeah. So, all right, CeeDee Lamb, 48 receiving yards. No, it wasn't enough.
Didn't make a difference, though.
Nope.
I wrote Drake May.
The greatest 7th place finish ever.
Oh, it was unbelievable. Drake May, Chase Brown, and Derrick Henry. And it was
right on time. Yep.
Yeah.
I would do anything for it to be Saturday. CeeDee Lamb, 48 receiving yards to pass Des Bryant for the 5th all-time in Dallas history. This is one of those, Jay, where, if he doesn't do it this game, he's going to get there next year, but I would imagine he does it.
Yeah, I think that he will against the Giants secondary that, 1, is bad, and then 2, just allows a ton of deep attempts as well as completions. So it's a defense that is funneled to the deep ball, and CeeDee Lamb, you suspect, is going to catch one, and if he doesn't, he should make up for it with short and intermediate stuff. So yeah, CeeDee Lamb, it's been an uneven season, a disappointing season relative to where you drafted him, but that is mostly just because of the health.
And finally,
I don't know. I wonder, though, by the way, I wonder if CeeDee Lamb's even aware of that and if he even cares. And by that, I mean, he's, Tony Pollard, I assure you, Tony Pollard is very aware that he needs 66 yards to get $250,000, right? When money is on the line, I'm sure players are very aware, but do you think CeeDee Lamb is tracking where he is on the all-time Cowboys receiver? And if it's to be number 1, okay, maybe, but it's just oh, by the way, you're going to move up from 6th to 5th if you get 47 more yards or whatever it is. Maybe it'll be meaningful. I mean, I have no idea. Maybe CeeDee Lamb was a Des Bryant fan growing up. I could see that, but I don't know. That one feels a little bit sure. Like
Right.
it feels like they're going to tell him at the post-game press conference, and he's going to go, "What? I did? Oh, cool." I mean, like, I don't know. I just don't feel like he's sitting there studying the Cowboys' all-time leading receiver list.
Trey McBride might be looking at this one. 32 receiving yards to be Arizona's tight end single season record. The current record is held by Jackie Smith with 1,205 yards. Trey McBride, who already set a record this year, Matthew, for most receptions in a single season for an NFL tight end. This would be one would probably be pretty cool for him, especially since he's come relatively close before.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been kind of a record-setting year for Trey McBride, and I think he would kind of want it. It is weird to think about that he holds he literally is the NFL record holder for most receptions in a year. Like not Arizona, like for the NFL. More than Kelsey, more than Ertz, more than any of the great tight ends over the years, the Gateses and the Gonzaleses. No one has more receptions in a year than Trey McBride. And by the way, he did it in 17 games. So, for all the people that say, like, 18-game season, you got an asterisk. But still, I'm sorry, 16 games, right? Sorry, 16 games. But it's weird that he still wasn't able to beat the Cardinals record for most receiving yards by a tight end. But anyway, I think he will get there. I think he will get more than 32 receiving yards this week and will continue a record-setting year for friend of the show, Trey McBride. Multiple friend of the show, by the way. He's been on the show multiple times. We love Trey.
He might set the record at Radio Row this year. It wouldn't shock anybody. We hope to see Trey McBride out there. All right, let's take our first break. When we're back, we're revealing the final regular power rankings of the season right after this. Aloha Bricks.
in the chat. Barry shot a +4 at Mini Golf Pro Am Open yesterday, while the windmill on 16th was rough for him, and Little Bo Peep on 7th challenged him a lot, and then the Dragon on the 18th ate his ball. He lost it. Meltdown. Well done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, you think it's bad here on the show. Wait, you should see the excuseler on the golf course.
Oh, man.
It's a sight to behold.
This club is terrible.
Little Bo Peep came out of nowhere.
Here's the Fantasy Football Happy Hour regular power rankings for Week 18.
Wow.
Yeah, Aloha Bricks at the top spot, followed by Jonathan Medici, Valiant Vincent, Ryan Oswald, Stuntman Chuck, K. Gemma, Shirtless Ben Johnson, Raise the Flags, SEC Man, and Brian Hickman. Some others receiving votes here. The IR regular, McGenuine, and Cobra Kiger. So a friendly reminder, we're going to reveal regular of the year at the upcoming Peacockies.
Medici felt at the last. Just call him Ohio State.
I know. We're going to see who takes the crown home at the, we'll send them a Peacocky, I guess.
Nice to see some names that we haven't seen on there before. Shirtless Ben Johnson, Cobra Kiger, etc.
Church's Kidney. I have offered free drinks to the entire Happy Hour team during Super Bowl week in San Francisco. That should get an honorable mention, right?
Oh,
yeah, time to step it up to the plate. We're going to be there before you know it. What's on Tap is brought to you by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Sundays are easy to enjoy when they are full of football and the fridge is filled with beer. And we're going to make it even easier for you by taking some of your best questions.
Oh, is this Trish's Kidney or Trish's Kidney?
I like Trish's Kidney.
I think it's Trish's Kidney.
Yeah, Trish's Kidney. Nice. Backup producer P asked Matthew, thanks for the weekly Friday Flexual Frustration help with my intimacy. I mean fantasy questions. I'm in the title match of my super competitive 8-team NFC only league. Can I still start Drake London this week after 2 straight bad games?
Yeah, look, I think you can. I mean, I get the question. I think it's tough. You know, first game back, maybe not 100% healthy. Last game against the Rams in a game in which they were able to run. But I have London at week 7. I'm at wide receiver 17 this week. So I'm as you see it right there. You like the matchup against the New Orleans Saints. I'm as a top 20 play, a low-end wide receiver too. But yes, I'd still be starting Drake London. I'm betting on the talent, the matchup, and the fact that I know he's playing the entire game. You can't say that about every single player this weekend.
Yeah. Backup producer Pete wants everyone to know too. That's a different backup producer Pete who's got a photo of backup producer Pete at the Happy Hour bar. Different person.
Yes.
Different person. Yeah, different.
Yes, his evil twin. Nick Fox asked, pick 2 to keep for next season. Chase Brown, Quinshon Judkins, Nico Collins, and Garrett Wilson. What do you like here, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think boy, oh boy. Those are some nice choices here, but obviously Judkins coming off the serious injury. I think you rule him out when you can only pick 2. And Garrett Wilson, I'd love your thoughts there, Connor. But for me, I think the answer here is Nico Collins and Chase Brown, right? You know, I feel the best about those 2 situations. We assume Joe Burrow is back and that entire offense is back. So, you know, Chase Brown should continue to do what he does when Burrow is back there. And Nico Collins, I continue to believe, is one of the best pure talent wide receivers in the NFL, and he'll continue to be the alpha in that Texans passing attack.
Yeah, I think the problem remains the same for both Garrett Wilson and Quinshon Judkins. Will they be anchored by the quarterback play of their offenses, where you don't feel that way about Chase Brown and Nico Collins when their guys are healthy?
Yep, absolutely. It's Collins and Chase Brown.
Our last one from Austin Rob 360. Who do you see rising in rankings outside of the incoming draft class the most over the offseason?
Well, you know, I'll give you a couple answers. I mean, first off, do they bring somebody back where you know it's a veteran? Do they make a Najee Harris type signing? You know, when the Chargers signed Najee Harris last year, you're like, all right, you knew this was Omarion Hampton's backfield. That was just sort of a veteran that you weren't worried about. Or do they bring in real competition for RJ Harvey? But I could see, depending on what the Broncos do in the offseason at that position, Harvey raising a decent amount. I'll mention Breece Hall, Connor, that, you know, I know there's talk that maybe they franchise tag Breece Hall, but like if Breece Hall is on a different team, like almost any other team, you could certainly see him raising up significantly, especially like if he goes to a team like the Chiefs or an offensive team that we think would with a really good scheme. And then lastly, Luther Burden III. as I said, my current way too early top 50 overall ranks for 2026 that are on Rotoworld.com and NBCSports.com. I'm a company man. Those are all done as if the NFL is today, as it is today. But we expect no DJ Moore, and could other people be leaving the Bears as well? So Burton would be my last answer as well in terms of somebody that moves up.
That'll do it for What's on Tap, presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. We're taking one more break. When we're back, Jay and I have our pickup lines for Matthew. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the app and use promo code FFHH when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook.
The crown is yours.
The crown is yours. Time for last call, pickup lines. As we look to close out the season strong here, Jay, what do you have for Matthew?
Going to take Derrick Henry over 92.5 rushing yards. The Steelers have the 25th best rush defense by EPA. I think that Henry will run all over them on Sunday night.
I'm going to go out with a bang here and go with the Bills to cover 6.5 against the Jets. It's the closing of Highmark Stadium. I don't care that they're playing backups. If you watched the Jets for the last month, it's still going to be Brady Cook then versus Mitch Trubisky when Josh Allen comes out of the game. Matthew, give me the Bills to cover just a touchdown, not even.
Yeah, I like both of those bets as well, but if I got a chance between betting on the Bills backups or Derrick Henry, give me Derrick Henry. Sorry. So I am going to go home with Jay. Listen, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. We're back Sunday morning for Fantasy Football pregame. But for Connor and Jay, I'm Matthew. Good luck this weekend. Peace out.